I had peanut butter on my knife, so I licked it. And my tongue was bleeding. And then I'm crying and I'm carving this phone number into my Frommer's How to Do Europe on a budget. And then I run out of coins and the phone dies. And my dad was like, what? So I'm crying. He's heard that I'm bleeding. I'm out of money and I'm stuck in this small town in Germany. And I was like, well, here we are.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 Podcast.
What's up, Mound Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 Podcast. We have an awesome woman joining us today. The last few years, I've gotten to know her through the Texo board, through the executive committee. She is full of energy. She's full of positivity. She's full of purpose. And every once in a while, we'll get a guest that returns the prep sheet to us. And we got this thing. And I remember going through it yesterday and be like, oh my goodness, this is exactly why we do what we do. There's going to be so many nuggets that meet listeners where they're at in their journey. And so we're so incredibly excited to have you with us. Julie Strong, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I feel real special in here.
Real special. I don't think we've had like honor. Real special's new. That's cool.
I do. I feel special.
One in every 10 or so. Before we get started, we just talk. And then I'm like, okay, we stop. We have to record something. I feel like we could have just talked and never recorded anything because we were having such a good time earlier. So hopefully we can recreate some of those vibes.
Got it.
Some of the fun.
Let's do it.
Maybe more cowbell if we're lucky.
Let's do it. Who's got it? We would have a gong, but Kevin broke it.
Yeah, Kevin broke the gong. So
my bad. It's and thanks for ratting me out because it was the underside, this chip. So now she's going to listen to this and look underneath on the bottom side of her gong and see that there's paint missing.
I bet
probably
those
fix it.
Guys at Woodhouse have some glue for that.
No, there's definitely a fix.
This episode's sponsored by Woodhouse, and so is the Texo Building Construction.
Yes.
And so is your shirt today.
There you go. Off the rails immediately.
Hey, sorry, I'm going to get us back. I feel like I'm always the guy trying to get us back on track here. Julie.
Yes.
We let guests self-intro themselves, as you may know. Tell us, who's Julie?
Okay. Well, Julie Strong, happily 54 years old. I think it just keeps getting better and better. I'm a Dallas native, born and raised here. Came to the construction industry sort of through a circuitous path, but really just needed a job when I was 26 and went to go work in the people department at TD and then moved into project management and then married an engineer. And here we are almost 24 years later running C1S Group. So I got two kids. Jack is, I have a kid that's almost 20. Jack's almost 20. Sam's almost 18. Matt is 50. I don't know. He's 3 years older than me.
Ish. Whatever it is, it's ish.
He's killing it. He's killing it. He's doing his thing. And so anyways, yeah, life's good. We have an engineering and construction company here in Dallas. That we've been running for 24 years with a bunch of other great folks. And it's been a labor of love. It's like our first baby.
I get that. Okay, so not a lot of people are Dallas natives, it seems like. Everybody here is from somewhere else, at least in 2024. Like, where is home in Dallas?
So, born and raised in Highland Park.
Yep.
Yeah, cue the jokes. That's fun.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Highland Park, but now we live, we just live in North Dallas. Yeah.
We also live in North Dallas. We get this little neighborhood flyer that some moms put. It's not fancy, but it's interesting. And there were pictures of the neighborhood when it was built in there about 3 weeks ago. Where there's nothing to the north. So I'm at like Coit and Campbell roughly. There's nothing to the north, right? You can see from my house to the elementary school, which is you couldn't, right? But that's Dallas when you're growing up. It's like North Park is out of town, basically.
There were horse stables.
Isn't that crazy? Those
North
stories
Park
are crazy.
Yeah. So we bought our house from the person who had it built in 1958 for $35,000 from a guy named Happy Smith. That's the builder. Old Happy. And we're north of Forest Lane. But at the time there was no LBJ. He said, my house was the end of town. I bought it because it was the cheapest lot and you could look north and you saw nothing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not still the case?
Right.
No, you you're not from Dallas, but
Mhm.
When you look north, there's
no,
north past 635. Yeah. There's stuff.
Yeah,
The
there's-
tollway is going to go straight to Oklahoma. It is already full, to Prosper?
Oh,
At
yeah.
least, yeah.
And then you get, and the tollway is just going to keep going. We're going to be like right there on the Red River soon.
100%.
All the way to Canada. How about
Let's
that?
go.
I saw an article the other day. I think it was in Dallas Morning News about how all
Let's
these
go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I skipped over right about let's go to Canada. All right, cool. All the tollways that we have now, like the plan wasn't for those to be tollways forever. I guess I didn't realize that. And now they're just like, well, they'll be tollways forever because people.
Because I got 40 cents every time.
Yes.
And I don't guess I notice it until I get my toll tag re-upping on me.
Yeah. We had, again,
Every
always
6 hours.
Yeah. Ashley, when Ashley got a new vehicle, she had a new toll tag and they changed the renewal they pinged us every $20 and it was getting hit like twice a week. I was like, why is the NTTA stealing our money? And then we had to, and we're like, oh, it's because we drive that's just how much it costs.
Yeah.
Anyway, we digress.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Tell me about growing up in Dallas.
Man, it was awesome. Grew up in Dallas. We were, I have an older sister who's 18 months older. Everybody thinks I'm older. She's shorter than me, but she's older than me. But everybody thinks I'm older. And I was actually mistaken for my dad's wife twice in the last couple of years. He's 85. So that's disappointing.
Or kudos to your dad.
Yeah, Coley tried to tell me that maybe people think you're a trophy wife. I was like, there's just a character assault in all.
Yeah.
It's either my looks or my character are in the toilet with that. So anyways, I digress. And then I have two younger twin brothers who are 6 years younger than I am. And so I think that's part of my upbringing is that when I was 6, my mom had twins.
Yeah.
And now that I'm a parent, I realize how crazy that is.
Yeah,
And so that's why we were basically feral and we could do whatever we wanted. My sister and I, they were like, you're grown, girl, just handle it. And so we just
I'm 9. It's fine. Just go.
Just fine. So I mean, we literally would, my friends even remember, we would just hold my brothers like babies, like dolls. Like they were our dolls. We'd put them in strollers, we'd shove them around the house and we'd put clothes on them and, dress them up and just do nutty things. Cause, my parents are like, I'm tired and you look capable and it's okay. And so we would just, had fun hanging out with my little brothers and we would run around in creek beds and all my shorts have like grass on the seat because we would just, slide down little muddy hills and mossy creek beds and walk through. They were the things that went under roads, like if a creek goes under a road and you just walk through those tunnels.
Oh, yeah. Like a culvert sort of, but not
I would
really.
never do that now. That's full of rats and snakes and gross. I just walk right through that stuff as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Seemed like what you do.
The internet likes to show me these like millennial memes. I don't know if the internet likes to show you those, but they've realized that I have a penchant for nostalgia. And so there's always telling me like something about like hits home when you're growing up, right? And this morning was one about how we didn't have iPads. We had that little thing behind the door that was kept the door from hitting. Yes. Like that was fun. You would just lay down there and like
Right.
Not that that's exactly what you're saying, but like it's like there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
So like sure, we just walk through the culverts and chase it, like whatever.
Yeah, I caught crawdads. I would wrap bacon around a rock and then tie it with string. And then you had to pull it real, real slow because crawdads are smart and they might know you're trying to catch them. And then your friend had to snatch them with a net.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a while away, hours.
Yes.
And now nobody does that.
Now, does Quinn do that a lot?
All the time.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
not
Yeah,
at all.
on her tablet, she plays this crawdad game.
Like that could be like it's either 100% fake news and hilarious, or it could be 100% true. I don't even know.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty darn close.
Crawdad catcher.
Yeah.
Mhm. Like Candy Crusher?
Well,
Crawdad?
no, it's worse. There's games where you watch kids play with little toys that are in the playroom that you could be playing with instead.
Yes. My children watch other people play video games.
Oh
yeah, that's Twitch, I think that's called. Yeah.
Or other people play golf. I was like, why don't you just go play golf?
And those people being watched are making millions of dollars
I know.
playing the same video game you could be playing.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to rename the podcast either "Okay Boomer" or "In the Ditch" because that is that's what we're doing right now.
We're not on topic?
There's
There's no
generational dynamics. Like one I noticed from the notes is when your mom cooked you dinner, you better be there.
Yeah.
Like, did you know because it was always the same time, or did you have a whistle, or you had to be within earshot?
Well, so it was usually around like 6:37, and it wasn't every night, but you just needed to be close enough to check and see if it was coming.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because if you weren't there, that's just it was a rudeness that would not be tolerated.
Yeah.
And she was like, I spent my time making this meal for you. And the guilt, I was like, well, that only happened once or twice.
Mhm.
And then you get home. And even if it's not there, you just made sure that you weren't missing it. But it was generally there. And she was so creative and so clever, but I just really wanted like manwich. I remember wanting manwich.
Manwiches.
Or sloppy joes. Other people's parents made sloppy joes. My
Mhm.
mom wouldn't do that. Like she wouldn't just serve like green beans. She wanted to make like green beans almondine. It's
Mhm.
like, why you gotta put the nuts on there? And so she was just clever and creative. She just wouldn't be regular. She wouldn't be plain.
Mhm.
And now I appreciate that and I love her for that. But I was like, why not the manwich tonight?
Do you know manwich?
Yeah.
Joe? Okay. Sloppy Joe
That's
sounds delicious.
For sure.
Like right now. Let's go get Sloppy Joes right now.
And my son had sloppy joes one time at school. He was like, Mom, it's disgusting. It's like sweet meat. I was like, and
Yeah, go on.
the problem?
You haven't reached the part about where it's disgusting yet.
Right. Put it on bread and enjoy that.
Yes.
Anyways.
That's where we're currently getting thrown off as a family is like trying the whole this is what we made for dinner or else type thing, like all the options and the fight with the kiddo on the meal in front of her is like a daily thing right now. And it's like, I remember when you came home, this was it. And you either ate it or you didn't, and you moved on. And sometimes they'd force me to sit at the table, but also I had to be within whistle of the house. My dad had a pretty loud whistle from the garage. And so I needed to be within earshot of that whistle. And when he whistled, if I wasn't there soon,
Trouble.
yeah, trouble.
You got yanked up by your armpit.
Yeah, something.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Probably why my shoulder doesn't work.
It stretched you out. He made you a little taller.
That's what it was.
Mm.
Yeah. we were not, for growing up in the Park Cities, we were not pretty children. We were, we had twins that were 6 years old. My parents, they were like, you cut your own hair or don't. I don't care. And we didn't have to bathe except for Saturday night before we went to church on Sunday. And so
We're going to be clean for Jesus.
amen.
School?
That's your problem. And so I had this thing that was, I had Wednesday hair. And so by Wednesday, my hair would stay back behind my ears without like a barrette or a clip. It was so dirty and greasy. I was like, oh, look at this. Like I could run a brush through it and I would have like brush marks in my hair. And I was like, this is pretty. And I just marched off to school proud as a peacock with my Wednesday hair. By Thursday and Friday, it was getting rough. And I had some friends' moms who were like, Julie, if you're going to spend the night, you have to shower before you go to bed. I was like, well, okay, if that's your rule. I don't understand it. But they just didn't want me on their sheets, I guess, because I was such a dirty child.
Yeah. Get this grease bag out of my... I got this Julie imprint on my pillowcase.
I'm serious. I was real. We were gross children. And it's not for lack of love. We had a ton of fun and a ton of love. But just, that was not priority. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to that, but like the memories that you made of doing all the stuff like that, like
yeah,
we teeter on at our house on the edge of like being crazy with the kids about picking stuff up and all this. And Ash was like, that's what they're gonna remember is like you just always told them they had to pick their bag up every day. Like who cares?
Yeah.
Well, I care.
Yeah,
but like who cares? Like you got Wednesday here. Who cares?
Yeah, but I wonder
time.
if some of my friends in their houses are like, oh, do you remember Julie Lowe? Boy, that girl was filthy. Like I'm someone's nostalgia in a not a positive way.
The other side of a story, someone's story is like, oh, Julie.
Yeah. We always hated when Julie came over.
Yeah.
So
The
always
banner
ate her
over a
manwishes.
bathroom, over the bathtub.
Right.
Don't be a Julie.
Right.
Julie.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right? Like that plastic sheeting on the pillow,
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know. Anywho, we survived. I still have some friends I still see my friends from elementary school.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, yeah, that's great.
That
So
is pretty
that's the
cool.
one thing about living where you grew up is you do get a fair amount of, that history and those roots. They get to stay there, which is pretty great.
Yeah, I think it is. Maybe it's a 2024 thing, but it is uncommon to live around where you grew up and see the people you grew up with. Everybody moves and changes
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So it was unique.
Yeah.
All right, you had written down. I always kind of go back to, even though I don't read it, except for while we're going live.
Yeah, all this always talk. I don't know where we're going here.
I always read it while we're going live. Decent runner. Tell me about this. Track kid?
Yeah. Yep.
Was cross country a thing back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
That I don't remember being. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so like, when you're in elementary school, you run the 600.
Okay. Yeah,
that's as far as you go, right?
Yeah.
Till 5th grade. And so I remember, I ran the 600 and I was like the 3rd fastest person in my school in 3rd grade, including boys.
Yeah.
So then that just kind of became my badge. And I was like, all right, that's my thing. I'm a runner. And so anyways, I ran in middle school, and then I ran in high school, and then I ran in college a little bit. And I ran with my dad for a long time. That was a great way for us to connect. You just put on your shoes and go outside, and you just talk or not.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah,
there's something about just being, right?
Yeah. And now it's just a huge piece of my mental health. I was running this morning with my little running crew, and it's more for my brain than anything else.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, gosh, why do people talk about accountability partners? Who needs an accountability partner? I just do that. I do not run if they're not running. I won't go.
Yeah.
Just nothing about that sounds good. It's just the community and the talking, and just my feet are moving, and that's fine. But I was reading something. I think it was like Peter Attia or the Huberman Lab or something, talking about how something happens when your body's moving in some, predictable, repeatable action that becomes mindless for you, that it opens some part of your brain. That's why you have those great aha moments, in these little episodes. Something just breaks free or gets clear. I'm not curing cancer or anything, but I am getting unstuck, I think. And so for me, I hope I can do it a long time.
I just sent, because you and I have had this conversation, the Huberman Lab, and it's dopamine that gets released in your body, and those peaks of dopamine. And I just sent it to Dylan, coworker, good friend, this morning, because he's starting the cold shower journey starting today. Today was his first day to replace the hot shower with a cold one. And then that time he buys, because he's not going to linger in the shower anymore, he's going to do stretching on. And that's what it is. That's those gym visions, those running visions. And I don't like running, but I do like the visions and clarity that I get from it when I come back or during it, that sometimes I got to journal and write down, because while the dopamine's high, when it drops, I might forget those good nuggets that I thought of that, could change the family, can change the business, that are a good idea for a podcast, whatever the case may be. It just opens up doors.
Yeah.
And I've heard, I know rumor mill says you're still a beast at running. It was probably Melly Mel that told me that
no.
You do like marathons.
I did. My dad did one, and then I said, okay, I'll do one. And so here's the sad thing. Well, this is sort of a gender thing. My dad, when he ran it, he's like 6'2". He had to run a 3:30 at 53 to qualify for Boston.
Oh, wow.
I was
booking it.
Yeah. I was 26 and female. I had to run a 3:35.
Huh.
What?
Yeah.
And further insulting, they call big guys Clydesdales. What?
Okay, that seems a bit much.
And they called women Clydesdales if you were over a certain weight. I was like, who?
Careful.
Who?
Easy. Get canceled.
Yes.
Careful.
I was like, who cares? They're running a marathon.
Yes.
What does
It's
their
a
size
crucible.
have to do with it? That's a badge of honor if you're dragging even more around. You're 120 pounds. That's easy for 26 miles. You're 210. That's different.
Right.
That you get extra point. You get time taken off for that, I think. And then they started, then they got cool, and they started calling larger women Athena class.
There you go.
I was like, still, why does that matter? Who cares?
The last one
It's
I
less
had,
offensive, though. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
the last one I had people at the finish line rooting and cheering, and they asked me after, like immediately after, like almost a little let down, like, you didn't see us. We were cheering and screaming. I was like, I was trying not to pass out. Like, I saw that finish line. That's the only thing I saw. I was just trying to survive to that checkered line. I didn't hear any of you.
That's what. So, which marathons you run,
I've ran,
or which ones?
2019 and 21 Dallas marathons, I think.
Oh yeah.
I said never again after the first one, and then signed up again.
Right. But I mean, talk about self-talk. Like, you are only in your head those last 8 miles. Your self-talk is so strong. You're like, just get to that corner. Just get to this check I always had my eye on those gals that wear the big, huge hoop earrings. I was like, I got to get her. So I can be a little competitive and petty, but still, your self-talk, like I think running has given me such a self-talk game because you are only in your head and you're suffering and you're not finished. So how do you get there?
Mm-hmm.
You have to talk yourself into it.
Yep.
And I guess you could stop and walk, and I'm sure I did, but by and large, it all happens between my ears. The finishing is all between my ears.
Who was it that was talking about the idea of running and like just it's not like the next hoop earrings, but it's like the next yellow shirt or something? Remember this? No. Somebody was talking about running a marathon. That's how they would do it, is like they would find the next person with hoop earrings. But it was a yellow
Compete
shirt.
Every Day, the book. I think Jake's
talking about?
He was talking about his half marathon in Vegas.
Okay.
He did it with no training. This thing was just like the next person, like it's just a competition.
Yeah.
That works for some.
Yeah.
I had, in the first one, I had like 8-10 miles to go, and I was in my zone, and I always ran by myself, so I wasn't used to people next to me. And it was at White Rock Lake, and you could see the city in the distance. And I was right at the brink of breaking mentally. And right at that moment, some dude looked at me. He goes, "Can you believe the finish line is all the way over there?" And he I snapped into reality, and it made the last 8 miles hell.
Oh God.
But why did he plant that seed in my brain? I was so fragile in that moment.
Cue.
He's out there just trying to wreck everybody.
I think that's what he was doing. He's like, got this guy. I could tell him he's wobbling.
Right. Yeah.
He's wobbling. I'm going to make him buckle.
Put a nail in that coffin. Here we go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was just trying to pick you off.
I got picked off.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
The process of running obviously is teaching you something, but and I'm assuming your journey is my oldest son William's a runner. He runs cross country. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And his coach has like taught him to a bunch of things about running and about himself and about perseverance. And there's a lot of folks like that. I'm assuming people like that show up in your life too, around running or otherwise. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think cross country is a perfect example, right? You pace yourself some, but by and large, there's a pack of people and you got to try to be at the front of it. Mm-hmm. So whether it's their pace or your pace, you got to stay close enough to make a move on them. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's so much of a mental game. And I think I'm so grateful for my experience with track and cross country because it just taught me how to push through pain, not the no pain, no gain. I'm over that game, but just the doing hard things and accomplishing them, mm-hmm. And then sort of translating that to something else, not just cross country.
Yeah,
but it's a team sport, but you are largely by yourself. Nobody carries you. It's not like you're going to pass it to someone. There's no baton in cross country. It's just all you and a lot of land between you and the finish line. And you really just got to get comfortable with some discomfort, generally.
One of the things I have noticed about track, cross country specifically, maybe it's running sports, is they're unique to other sports in that everybody's pulling for you.
Yeah.
Everybody has an understanding that you're really just racing against yourself. At the end of the day, there's a finish line and there's a 1 and a 2, but really you're just racing yourself and everybody's playing. Whereas like in basketball, everybody's trying to take your spot, take your time, push it, it's
right.
It's more like mono competitive. Cross country, they're like, you PR, everybody's happy for you.
Yeah.
Whether you won or lost a race, there's an appreciation for you're doing your best.
Yeah.
That's unique. It's a cool, like, I don't know if it's track is the same way or not, but it's a unique running sport feel for sure.
Yeah. Well, cross country is great because you can field, you can throw 7 folks out there in the exact same event.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody's suffering fairly equally.
Right.
Track, you got a whole bunch of different events. Runners don't run miles and whatever,
right.
but still, it's the same idea. You're out there by yourself. You're on the line every time. And I think as a woman, I think that was one of the best things I was able to do. One, it kept me busy at a time when things at home were kind of crazy, and it gave me a place to go and people to do and my own jam. Like, here's what I am. And that I needed, which was great. But I think, and some of my best friends, we just went to a banquet or something to celebrate my track coach. One of my mentors,
That's awesome.
he got recognized for his accomplishments, and people flew in from all over. Of course, I'm still here, so that was easy. But
You're like, oh, Stinky Julie's here.
yeah, look. Seriously, it's terrible. Such a proud moment. But anyways, I'm grateful for that experience. I'm sure soccer would have done it too. Basketball would have done it too. Like Caitlin Clark.
Oh my
What is
gosh.
going on? She's changed female athleticism and the media and the market and it's a little bit Mia Hamm, but it's Mia Hamm on steroids,
Yeah.
right? It's a whole new level of visibility, and I just
Boy,
enamored.
I could get off into that ditch for a long time, but I have a 11-year-old girl who loves basketball, so we've like the WNBA. It's like nostalgia memes, and the WNBA is what the internet wants me to follow these days. Just because I've been paying so much attention to all of that, but she's doing it in a way that's like it's all about Caitlin Clark right now, but I feel like she's doing it in a way that's elevating women's sports, and so her moment in the limelight will pass, but the waterline for what she has done will be there forever. And I don't know if we as a society fully appreciate that right now, but it's and there's an element of humbleness throughout all of the women who have helped raise the waterline in women's sports right now, because they're all like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it without her. I wouldn't have done it without Brianna Stewart. I wouldn't have done it right. They're not like, look at me. Whereas in men's sports, I think right now the waterline's so high, it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Women's sports is different right now, and I think that's really cool. It's a fun time to be paying attention to it.
That adolescent boys are talking about Caitlin Clark.
Oh yeah,
not in a sexualized way,
right?
In a sheer respect kind of way is amazing.
Stella was saying the other day, I think it was Stella saying the other day that they were playing at school. A kid hit a deep shot and said something about how like he was Caitlin Clark, and I was like, how crazy is that, right? But like. Anyway, elevating women's sports is super. I wouldn't have probably even thought about it, but for having a daughter at this point, but it kind of changes your perspective on everything.
Yeah.
Anyways,
sports. I'm a big believer in it. Sports or the yearbook or the band. Gosh, people who do band, boy, they are lifers, and they get so much out of that experience. Just something, and I'm grateful that I had what I had, and my boys play baseball, and just time in the dugout is not time with a device, not time in front of a TV. It's just time, and you just get so much out of it.
You said two things, and then we can kind of pivot on. But two things that jumped out to me about your time, continued time in sport, right? Is what I heard was like it was a refuge, it was a place to go. And I've had that thought for basketball for me, but never really put it together like that. Like it was a refuge, and that's why it has a special place in my heart. And it's yours. Right? Like that's uniquely yours. Your parents aren't doing it with you. They might take you, but that's your thing. Those are two like ways to think about sport and the impact of sport on youth that I have not really processed it like that, but that's a good little nugget for me.
Yeah.
Raising kids and stuff. So
yeah.
It's interesting.
And the other one that I found sort of interesting here lately, but I lived it too when I was in high school. My last year in high school, we were 5A. And then they went to 4A. And that was, the school was getting smaller. So they went to 4A. And I had, there were records that stood for 20 years because they went to 4A. Like the bar moved.
Yeah.
You did not have to be as good.
Right.
You did not have to run as fast. And these are the same girls and boys that are running around the same track with the same coaches, but they just didn't have to. You could win with 5 seconds more time in a different class. And then as soon as they bumped back up to 5A, that record was gone in 2 years. And so to me, it was such a good example of where the bar is. Like, where do you set your own bar? Like, there are a lot of like sort of artificial bars out in the world, but where's your own? I imagine both of you guys have really high personal bars. We wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't. But to me, that is just really telling. The exact same kids going through the exact same system. They didn't have to, so they didn't.
Yeah.
And they still got gold ribbons. There's nothing 4A, 5A,
Sure.
6A, 1A. Who cares? They still got gold ribbons. But to me, it just sort of landed with where do you set your own bar and how much external plays into that.
Okay, so I'm going to take that story, do something I hate about myself that I do, is tell my own story, and then transmute that to like a business idea. Stella she plays competitive. I'm using my air quotes. You can't see them if you're listening, but she's played competitive volleyball with a well-known team here in town. Has had some offers to go play on the top team at other clubs. And so this week we're wrestling with, like, should she stay where she is and not be the best and struggle with that, or go play for this other team? Well, she'll be like, they're begging her to come play. She'll be the best in the gym. And Ashley and I were looking at each other. I was like, you don't want to be the best kid in the gym. And we kind of like nodded about it. And I was like, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you're the fastest kid in the gym, you don't want to be in that gym. You need to find another gym. And to kind of bring that back together, like, that's your where's your bar point you're making is, if you're the smartest person, if you're the fastest runner, go find a different group. Because you probably, just like those HP kids running in 4A, didn't have to run. They could have done more, but they weren't being pushed. They didn't have the right standard. They weren't being whatever. That's a good, like, triple entendre of sport, life, business, all coming together right there. So that's a really good point.
How old, Stella?
11.
11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Aren't you any friends in those other clubs?
No. She would. Our kids are kind of like, not in a weird sort of way, but like, they're strong lone wolf kids. Like, I don't need to. Friends are cool. I like having them.
Sure.
But we'll charter and blaze our own paths.
Yeah.
So going and switching, she doesn't care. So
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, maybe it's 11. That's a good time to be a leader.
Oh, man. Ashley was telling me, I'm doing it, right? Ashley was saying last night, they pulled her aside and like, all the kids are looking to you. Like, you need to be the first. You need to be we picked the club to not be the fastest kid in the gym, right? And they're like, all the kids are looking at you. Like, someone has to get us going. Someone has to send us in the right direction. It's on you. And I was like,
awesome.
Got them. So,
nice.
Anywho, that's a neat. I'll cut all that out because that's nonsense talk. But
that's good.
It's fun.
I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. Anywho, okay, pivot us out. Where are we going?
Yeah. So in the intro, you said you needed a job, so you went into construction, and we all know that, at least sitting here where you're at currently. But you're like me, where our dreams and aspirations maybe didn't align with construction. Maybe we just pivoted to it because of lack of opportunity, career limiting decisions, all the things. But you come from a family in construction, but you ended up going to college for psychology. So what's that all about?
So yeah, I think I'm grateful. My dad said, "Hey, you're going to spend 4 years studying something. Pick something that you're interested in." He wasn't like, "Go get an accounting degree or go do." I don't even think construction management degrees existed. Maybe I'm old. Maybe they did. And it just was clearly not on my path. But I think there's a saying that people who study psychology are really trying to figure out what's going on with themselves or with the people in their lives. And so I think that was probably true for me too. I was trying to understand a little bit of of my situation. My mom was diagnosed bipolar back in the 80s. And then there just wasn't a lot of support, or there wasn't a lot of awareness. There was 1,000 times the stigma.
Yeah.
And bipolar is tricky because it's sort of insidious. You can be fine. You can also be real high achieving in certain states of being manic. You could be super creative. You can be real productive. You can be real clever and witty. And then you go a little too far and you make a mess of stuff. And people are like, God, just quit making a mess of stuff. And so they don't really give it a name. They don't really call it a thing. And then if you get into a depressive cycle, they think, well, she's just feeling remorseful for that stupid thing she did. And you're like, they just don't give it a name. They're like, you're just riding life way too hard and you're creating a lot of chaos and we just wish you'd stop. Just stop doing that. And so in addition to, we didn't know it was bipolar for quite a while. And so, she self-medicated, I think, with alcohol just to kind of level things out because, didn't have any other tools. And there wasn't a lot of recognition, and people around her weren't like, hey, I've got someone in my family who has that. You should talk to someone, right? Nobody's talking about this stuff.
And I think you said it, but like highly stigmatized.
Oh gosh.
Like she's crazy.
Yes.
Like that sort of, and I'm not being flippant about it.
No.
Like that's just where we were in society at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. And so anyways, we were thrilled to kind of get a name for it, but still it's a beast of an illness.
Yeah.
And it's a beast to manage even if you've got good support around you. But there came a certain point where she'd created so much damage that she damaged a lot of relationships and damaged a lot of stuff, damaged her marriage. And it was, so things were really falling apart. And, when your stomach hurts, your brain says, hey man, something's wrong. Like you got to go see the doctor or go to the bathroom, whatever the thing is. When your brain is misfunctioning, it doesn't tell you, man, you want to check in with your therapist. Man, you had to go double check those meds. Make sure you took that today. Man, you're like, nothing tells you. There's no guardrails around it. And so, and even then, our family wasn't capable of being good guardrails. We're all uneducated and unaware. And so anyways, it was difficult. And she was, and she's so smart. She's so creative. She's brilliant. She had lovely friends for the longest time who knew who she was, but it's hard to be in a relationship with her.
Yeah.
And so that was a real struggle. It made home feel sort of unsafe, made track feel great.
Yeah.
And it made, for me, it gave me a thing that, brought me personal joy, but also made people in my family happy. So, getting good grades was big for me, being a runner, bringing some positivity to this scene was sort of my jam. And then, you can fall into that being a pleaser. But, it's unfortunate. And she ultimately, she did get sober, went to AA, got sober, and was largely very present for, her last 9 years, but she died when she was 53. She was, I've already lived a year longer than she has.
Oh, wow.
Because, again, she lost most of her relationships. She spent a lot of time alone. I certainly didn't have the tools at 20 to say, Mom, I really love you, but I just need to, it's hard for me to be around you when you're like this. I just didn't have those tools. So I just separated.
Mm-hmm.
And so in those, those memories are painful. And that is hard to think that she did. She died alone in her apartment. And she just didn't have support around her. And she also didn't have good health care, right? So she was working for companies that didn't have health care. That even healthcare today has terrible mental health care. And so her medications got mixed matched and caused some seizures, and she couldn't rally from it.
Yeah.
So, it's for a woman who was so bright and so creative and so clever and so well loved and did so many amazing things, gave me, my life, my siblings. I'm so grateful to her, and I regret that I wasn't able at that age to, have better tools I couldn't have fixed it myself, but I could have sustained our relationship in a different way. And so I, and then you spend a fair amount of time in regret over those things. And all my siblings, we talk about it. We all had a different path.
Yeah.
We all did something different to get through all that. There's just so much collateral damage that happens, and nobody wants it to be different more than the sick person.
Right. We just got finished with a series. I think it's just a 2-part series at church on mental health and how the church is, kind of called to be loving and caring and responsible, all those things. And as we were talking, I wasn't talking, they were talking, teaching through it, had a lot of aha moments around some of the things that you just said. It's just like identifying it, being caring, but nobody well, I say nobody, like I said, absolute. I would have been similarly unaware of how to deal with any of it in the diggities, just because nobody knew. And if we did know, it was so stigmatized. And just saying those words out loud and bringing some awareness to it is helpful, because somebody's listening like, I know that person, or I know someone who's wrestling with this issue, and it just gives them some encouragement to say like, okay, it's 2024. There's information, there's literature, there's so like we can do it differently now than we did in the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, in mental illness, and I've struggled with my own depression at times. And so I have a huge respect for, once you're in it, you can't just like, oh gosh, stop thinking those thoughts, stop crying so much, stop being so sensitive. When you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah.
And it colors, it's not like you can just take off those grimy glasses and see the world differently one day after the next. It takes time to move through those cycles. They do not come and go quickly.
No.
And so, and I'm sure, I wish that I'd done some things differently, but I have such huge respect for people who struggle with mental illness openly, who deal with it sort of with all the resources they have. And it just makes you so broken for people who don't have access.
Mhm.
If you don't have support, you don't have family, you don't have resources, it's terrible. And you'll cycle in and out of ERs and jails for a
Yeah.
long time
Yep.
until something else gets you.
In your woulda, coulda, shouldas, you can't go backwards in a
Yeah.
time machine and change what you did. But one of the things we get to do with our pain and our mountains is pay it forward to other people to hopefully catch them
Yep.
before they have to walk all the way through it like we did. So what are, like, whether it's the person or the people around them, what are some of those woulda, coulda, shouldas? Is it communication, vulnerability, like just talking about it? What is it?
Yeah. I think it's just awareness of just knowing what the illness looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Any of them. I mean, for me, they're mood disorders. So it's bipolar or depression. Knowing what the illness looks like, knowing what someone who's functioning is impaired because of it, who's isolating, who's behaving erratically and unpredictably, who's, there's criteria. I mean, if you went to a doctor who was trained in it, the criteria are not hard. Changing sleep, changing weight, erratic behavior, isolating, not enjoying things that you normally used to enjoy. All those things people that are close to you can see that. They can see you doing that. They can see you pulling away. They can see you taking risk that you shouldn't. They can see you taking on, just behaving in ways that aren't typical because they've known you for a while. And, it's important to say something. In fact, our golf tournament this year, we have a charity or a philanthropic golf tournament every year. This year, the benefactor is the Grant Halliburton Foundation. And Grant Halliburton was a 19-year-old, I believe, who committed suicide. And his mom said it's preventable. And we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know. And I will not allow others to not know. And so they do a lot of work in schools, teaching people what the signs are of suicide. Typically, people will say something.
Mm-hmm.
They will confide in someone. And then what do you do with that? Who do you tell? What do you say? How do you engage them? How do you encourage? Honoring their wish to keep it silent is at a peril. Mm-hmm. And so there's so many more resources now. Grant Halliburton's one, but there's so many that focus so much on mental health, especially in those sort of gap groups between 17 and 25, where everybody thinks, oh, crazy behavior is normal, or a little moodiness is normal. It may not be. Yeah. And you got to know what the difference in normal teenage moodiness versus real struggle, and don't be afraid to call it what it is and have a tough conversation, and they equip you with the language and they equip you with the resources. And I'm just so grateful that needle has moved. It's got a long way to go still. But you can make a big difference in people, and people can live, you probably would have never guessed, knowing me, that I'd ever struggled with depression, because people generally think I'm pretty enthusiastic and pretty outgoing and pretty energetic, but it happens.
Yeah.
It happens to anybody.
Heck yeah.
And so, just to be able to say that out loud is hard. It's not as hard as it used to be, but it was just so real you can't deny it. And you just got to, play the hand you're dealt, as my dad would say. He's a card player. So play the hand you're dealt. Don't try to run from that.
Yeah.
I think they say it more often about you and I's personality type, that you best check in those that are loud and energetic.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what they're wrestling with privately.
Right.
It's like so cover fire. Like it's a smoke screen of sorts. Is it, I don't know. That's a real question. Like,
yeah.
Is that the idea?
I'll tell you, when I was in it, I couldn't have sat here and faked it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, when you're, when it's real, you really got to, thank goodness I had people around me. And I was never going to, hurt myself, thankfully, but I sure was okay if I just fell asleep for a week or two and just didn't have to live for what was going on. And there was just a bunch of, and in the end of the day, there were some triggers to it, some external triggers, but I was predisposed to it, I think. And but that is true. You can overcompensate for it. You can hide it pretty easily. And that's just why having community and family and people who know you and love you, keep them close, check in. When you see someone isolating and pull away, reach out.
Yeah. Well, how much of that story, thanks for sharing it, by the way.
Yeah.
How much of that story, oh man, I'm struggling with the right word, influences you deciding to take the degree path that you take, or
Yeah.
is that it seems like it's probably very related.
Yeah, I think that's I was just looking for understanding.
Yeah.
I was 18 and she was in the throes of it, and we weren't well as a group, and I just wanted to understand it myself. Maybe wanted to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's gosh, it's a remarkably interesting field of study. But everybody's like, "Oh, you probably use that every day." I was like, "No, I was studying like Pavlov's dogs and stuff. It's not like I don't take that to work. That doesn't help me at all."
Well,
but
maybe the treat scenario. But
we do bring food to have people into the office. So yeah, COVID taught us that if you want people to show up, you feed them.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Among other things.
Sure.
Perhaps.
Sure.
Yeah.
But food helps.
I feel like that's a good nugget. Like your dad is and was well connected in construction. And I don't know if this was the heart of it, but it makes me think about my daughter. Like, go do something other than construction management, because I know I could get you in if you need it. Like, if you decide that I'm in on it, or I tried other things, I don't know what else to do next, I know people.
Yeah.
I could get you in and kick that door in for you.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Hey, go explore. Do whatever you want. Don't follow my footsteps. Follow in your footsteps.
Yeah. He didn't know. I didn't know what he did growing up. We would ask him what he did. He'd say he was a plumber.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, all right. And so we really didn't know. And people say mechanical contracting when you're 15
means nothing.
and there's no internet, and I have no idea. I mean, I was, we'd go on those topping out parties, and I'd walk around these buildings, these big central utility plants, and I'd be like, cool, where's the barbecue, man? This is really Saturday morning. It's not where I wanted to be. But now I marvel at it. And what I fell in love with was the people who figure that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff doesn't, just when you're 15, you think that stuff just shows up, just bolted together like Legos. Let's go.
Yeah.
But they would belabor, this huge setup that they built. And I was like, got it. Yeah, cool. Come on. And now when you see that stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, how did they build that? And it just was, it's just a marvel to me. And so that's one of the things I learned, is that, field folks, they run this show. Even when we went to TD, I was in the people department. I was running a tech program trying to, bring in entry-level plumbers and sheet metal workers. We paid them, they had a high school degree and they could pass a math test. We would pay them $10 an hour to learn. And then you got promoted to like $14 an hour and you went out in the field, and then you went to work. And I loved it. And there's still some of the folks that we hired from that program that are still working at TD, and I know them and I love it. It was a great experience for me, but I did move into project management. I knew nothing. They knew I knew nothing. I had to be, talk about humble pie, man. Just had to admit it and know you don't know and ask good questions. And someone showed me like an isometric drawing one time, and I was like, wait, what? How does that go from the floor to the ceiling? That looks like it goes sideways. And people taught me. They just showed me and taught me, and they told me, and they were generous, and they I know they knew who my dad was, and I'm sure there was plenty of snickering about that, and I deserve it, right? You got to earn your stripes. But my dad has a policy about nepotism. He's like, yeah, we're all for it, because you just work twice as hard for family.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to embarrass anyone up in here. So you work twice as hard. And I feel like I did. I worked really hard. But those people in the field, Darwin Pierce, Larry Randolph, there's so many people at TD that taught me, just generously gave their time to teach me things. And it's so true. I've heard someone say that, a strong superintendent can carry a weak project manager. Strong project manager cannot carry a weak superintendent. It just all happens out there. And those people know so much. And I'm grateful to have learned that real early on, because now from where I sit at C1S, when we're talking about policies, we're bringing a new software, we're trying to make something shiny and new and great. You're like, no.
Yeah.
These people, how's it work for what actually happens out there in the field?
Oh, yeah.
That's where the rubber meets the road. We are not going to throw one more thing in that toolbox that doesn't add value for them, because that's where that's where you make a difference.
Right. Force something on them they think's a bad idea. It's killing their time and wasting their productivity. And then,
But I get such cool charts. Come on, y'all, do this fancy thing or do all this, whatever. It's like, no.
Wah, wah. Yeah. Not
Their days are so crazy. You know this. Job sites, you show up in the morning with a plan, and by 8:30, you're like, well,
that didn't work.
Yeah. Your field team are your clients.
Amen.
That you serve them. So
Yes.
what tools and resources are you giving to help them?
Yeah.
And not tell them what to do. Here, in our office, do you have video cameras and time studies, people looking over your shoulder about how you send that email? No. And how would you feel if you did have that? You'd be pretty ticked off. But we go do that in the field?
Yeah.
What gives us the right to do that?
Right.
Why don't you go ask them, because they're probably more proficient than you at it, how you can help them? So that a good superintendent can carry a weak PM, but a good PM cannot carry a weak superintendent. Ooh, that's your quote of the day for me.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And in that first half, you might run off some really good superintendents because of that weak PM.
Yeah.
Because they're sitting there like, where are my screws?
Yeah.
Where are my shims? And at the end of the day, I know I'm going to get screamed at because my job went over budget, but I'm not getting the things I need from the same office that's screaming at me to do a better job.
Yeah.
You know how frustrating that has to be?
Yes.
If you put yourself in their shoes? Oh, my goodness.
One of them said to me, I said, I can't get it until next week, or it's going to cost a ton in expediting. He's like, Julie, that's $1 waiting on a dime. I was like, oh, I think I'm the dime.
Yes, sir. I hear what you're saying.
Roger that. We're going to expedite those.
Yeah, roger that.
Yep.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
But it was great. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and it was a huge experience, and I'm grateful that they trusted me enough to do it, and I had a good time. I was more in that high purity clean room world than heavy lifting on big central utility plants, but still, it's good stuff.
I feel like TD was way ahead of their time on seeing what matters most. Looking outside, looking in.
Yeah,
way ahead of their time.
That servant leadership, they got 2 jobs for leaders: grow people, grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
Both equally important. And for a while, it was kind of loose. There was like, oh, well, he's a great servant leader. Everybody loves working for him. Yeah, but he's not good at his job. Mm. He's not doing she's not doing what needs to get done. And therefore, she's not growing anyone to come in behind her. And so, it's an accountability thing, but they work really hard at that. And they have for a long time. It's a great thing about them is their culture's been so steady. And things change. I mean, you can't go from $250 million to $800 million without some change.
Yeah.
You can't expand to Arizona and Washington, D.C. and add electrical and then retract and change and pivot without, losing some stuff. But that's just, and I learned so much at TD. I mean, they gave me such a great start. I was on the healthcare committee. Here I am now having to pick benefits for 40 people at our company.
Yeah.
I was on the culture committee. Now I'm in charge of making sure we're protecting ours and minding ours. And how do you do that? And so much that I learned at TD has helped me be, the leader I am now, which I hope I'm doing a good job, but jury's out yet.
Jury's still out. It's fine.
It's not over. Still time to screw it up.
Yeah, a burden of leadership, right? 1,000 good things could be canceled by one bad.
Yeah.
Just what we carry.
Yeah.
The as I'm looking through, I'm trying to track some of the things you wrote down on the prep sheet, and before we pivot from we left TD, there's a story on here I want to go back to. Your words, backpacking around Europe for 3 months.
Mm.
We missed this whole thing, and I'm super interested in it. So tell me a story about that.
So my grandmother was, she has just always been a world citizen, right? She's on the Interfaith Council for, 50 years ago that was trying to bring all the religions of Dallas together. And she would always give us these little metrics and reminders of if the whole world had 100 people, there would be 0.5 of them that look like you. Mm-hmm. Right. So this world is big and different. You need to see it. Don't just sit here. Don't just do this. And so when I graduated college, she said, I'm going to give you some money and you're going to go backpack around. She gave all the grandkids some. my sweet sister went to an all-inclusive in Mexico. Had a blast. That was awesome.
She learned something different.
Yes, it was different lessons.
Yeah.
And there's no better or worse. We all did something different. But I had an older cousin who'd already done it, so I felt like I could do it. And so I went backpacking around Europe, and all I had was a Eurail pass, right? So I traveled by train everywhere, and I had a plane ticket home. And the rest of the time, you just found your way and met the greatest folks. I saw so many churches. You get real tired of churches by the end of that gig, but churches and museums, you hit them hard if you have to. But, just to like my first night I landed in, I think, Stuttgart or somewhere. We stayed at a youth hostel in Mainz, and I was in I shared a room with these Bosnian refugees. It was during the Bosnian War. It just started, and they were escaping. Like, they just had enough money, I guess, to catch some trains and go somewhere else. And I'm in here like, well, hee-haw, where am I going next? And these two sisters were like huddled up on their bunk bed crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my first eye opener to people are living this life real different.
Oh yeah.
And so that was good for me. I mean, I was pretty insulated. I grew up in Dallas. I went to Tulane for a couple of years, went to UT for a couple of years, but pretty insulated. And this was just really good for me. And I met some amazing folks I'm still friends with and did some.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. One of them, I was sitting in a youth hostel in Innsbruck, Switzerland, and you had to check in at like 3, and then you waited till 4 to see if you got a bed. And we're just hanging around, and some girls next to me starts talking about she went to TCU, and I was like, what? And so we started talking, and then we traveled together for the next 6 weeks, and then we were roommates when we came back to Dallas.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Veronica Wood, shout out. Anyways, stuff like that. Life happens. I mean, would I let my kids go now if I hadn't done that? No way.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't have cell phones, right? You call home once a week. And if you missed them, you missed them.
Man.
I know. I remember I went to Dachau, which is just incredible to go see, but I missed the last little commuter train out of that community. I was like, oh, crap. And I was by myself.
Where's Dachau?
Dachau's in Germany. It's one of the concentration camps. Okay. And it's like those who forget the history are destined to repeat it, right? And so you are seeing all the things, and you're walking through this real place that exists as a memorial to remind us, and it's important that we have them, of the terrible things. And but I got stuck out there. And so I called on a payphone, and I don't know why I did. I called home, and you're pumping coins in this thing, and all I've got is my Swiss Army knife, and I don't have a pen that writes. I'm trying to write the phone number of somebody to try to go find so that I wouldn't be stuck here in this little bitty town. And for whatever dumb reason, I had peanut butter on my knife, so I licked it. And my tongue was bleeding, and then I'm crying and I'm carving this phone number into my Frommer's How to Do Europe on a budget, and then I run out of coins, and the phone dies. And my dad was like, what? So I'm crying. He's heard that I'm bleeding. I'm out of money, and I'm stuck in this small town in Germany. And I was like, well, here we are. So you get out of pickles like that, live to tell. Kindness of strangers. Somebody pointed me to a bus station. I made it back. It's fine.
There is something about how our ability to stay constantly connected has reduced our resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you just figure it out. Like, dad ain't here, ain't nobody to call. You figure it out or sleep at the concentration camp.
Right.
Like, you're in trouble here.
Yep.
Whereas now you're like, I'll just call dad, and he'll just text me some money, and I'll swipe it at the whatever nonsense, right?
Yeah.
We've lost our figure it out-ness.
I know. I worry. Can kids read maps anymore?
No.
Because she's like, turn left.
Yeah.
Go straight.
Right.
I know. I worry.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Anyways, that's
an amazing story. The reason it was super interesting to me was we were at Mother's Day brunch with some family friends who had a exchange student living with them from Italy. Had been there, I guess, for the whole school year. She's a senior. And most of us were just like huddled up around her like, what? Like telling us stories from home and what her parents do and why she's here and blah, 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 and all these things. And just little reminders that this little moment of time that you live in this little place, you're really just, what'd you say, 0.3 of the 100 people in the world look like you or whatever. It's like a big world out there.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah. I hope, That's one thing I hope my kids can do is just, I hope they'll go travel. I hope they don't call home every day. I mean, I will miss them, but you got to figure some stuff out.
Mm.
And sometimes that's just when stuff gets hard. You got to have hardship. That's so hard to watch your kids struggle. Oh, so hard, but it's good for them. We're built for struggle.
I stole it from who was it that was with us the other day? I was talking about building resiliency.
Shelton?
No, it was Herb Sargent. He's talking about building resiliency, and that's just been stuck on my head about like how do we build resiliency corporately in our families, et cetera. And sometimes it means letting them struggle. Sometimes it means letting them fall off a cliff. Sometimes it means screwing up whatever. But that's how anyway. But you're not building it by texting me to come pick you up. Figure it out, bro.
Right. And there's a piece of that too that God, we're just going full circle, but running, track, any of it, just some grit about it. But then there's a piece where you can try to own it too much to your detriment. Like you can, you think you're just measured by your output and your ability to solve, and you got to know these things. People are expecting you to know these things, and then you forget how to ask for help.
Yeah,
and you forget the value of friendships and relationships and the kindness of strangers. And I recently started this program called My Steady Mind. So there's a doctor named Seth Hickerson, and he started this thing called My Steady Mind. And he was originally doing it for athletes, but now he does it for like NASA and medical schools, especially since COVID. And so he's a PhD. It's a 9-week. He's got this 9-week program, right? And it's got these videos that you watch and exercises you do, and you get a call with him every week. And it's all about building resiliency, about protecting your mind, protecting your energy. Like the world will tell you over and over again, you're not enough and you aren't good enough for whatever's in front of you. And how do you, people, one of the things I learned that was so great, he's like, stop saying you're busy. That's just you not managing your time. Get a hold of it, say no to some stuff, do an inventory, but busy is a word that doesn't serve you. It actually makes you more agitated to say the word. And he's all about, and so the program has been amazing because it's building new neural networks, right? And so we're learning new things. We're building new paths towards different ways of responding, putting a gap in between stimulus and response. How do you do that? What do you do with that gap? How do you respond differently? Oh, Stewart's laughing.
Oh yeah, well, because sorry, I'm doing it again. But it's the don't respond to that email right now. That's what the thought I was like is like in 1997 version of me would be like, ding, reply, got this one. Now
all
I'm like,
caps.
Ding. All right, man, I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee. I'll come back to that in 20 minutes when when I create a gap between my stimulus and my response. I think I'm gonna create a gap there. That's probably prudent. Just
put a gap in there, and then and I also have been meditating is one of the things that helped me a lot when I had depression. So I've tried to keep that up. And it seems gosh, if you told me 5 years ago that I would sit on a podcast and say I meditate, people would have been like, oh, another one of those. She must be a real hard worker. You just have this thought of navel gazing and just not feeling angst or stress or pain or whatever. It's like, no, it's just thinking about your thinking.
Yeah.
And it's just been a game changer. I don't do it great all the time. I screw that up all the time. I can be pretty emotional. And that's great when you need me to cheer for you.
Yeah.
But when I get angry, like when the budget truck guy gives me an electric vehicle that I don't realize is electric until I'm in Alvord, Texas, and my battery's dead.
Oh, boy.
And I'm stuck. This is just last Thursday. It's pretty raw. And I call him. I'm like, hey, Chris, quick question. Is this a hybrid or electric? He's like, we don't even have electric trucks. I was like, I think you do.
I think I'm in one.
I think
you're going to have to tow this one back.
And it's dead. So I was irate. I screamed. I swore at this man who literally didn't know better. It didn't help that he'd mansplained insurance to me for 45 minutes, trying to badger me into taking $400 worth of insurance that I already had. So I was already off on a rough foot with Chris. But all that being said, I handled that like a champ. But when you dump me in Alvord an electric vehicle that you don't even know is electrical, it wasn't his fault. He didn't mean to. Oh, man, I came unglued.
Yeah.
I owed him a big fat apology. We had to hug it out. And so I don't get it right all the time. I'll just leave it at that. But it helps. It helps. And now my son, who's a pitcher, you get up on the mound and there's half the people are cheering for you when you fail.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Half the umps judging you on speed and accurate. You got to throw hard, fast movement, spin, but in a 2 square foot box. And pressure cooker. I couldn't do that if I had to. You need it for that. You need to. You're by yourself. You're on a team, but you're by yourself out there, man.
Yeah.
You walk in 4 runs by yourself. Sucks.
That's one of the answers to the question, how do we manufacture adversity for our children that have everything? Put them on the mound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's not everything, it's a thing.
And there are more than once where I've said, is there another sport?
Mm-hmm.
Could we just do crew? How's yearbook council look? Like, do something, not this. This is so painful to watch you be miserable. He's like, Mom, I love it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it breaks his heart. And I know it's good for him.
Heck yeah.
But man, that's a stinker.
Well, there's something to, I'll only come back to it. I love talking about youth sports apparently, but there's something to sport as a meritocracy.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a little politics at play
Sure.
too, sure. But like, it's meritocracy. Like if there's no actual belief that you can execute the task, someone else gets a shot. And there's some resiliency built into that.
Yeah.
It's just like, bro, do it or don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be the judge of it. All these people here and that guy who gets to call your number, he's going to be the judge of it.
Yeah.
This is Mama's not fixing this.
Yeah.
Youth sports is, again, it's political overlay to it too, but I do love throwing people into a meritocracy scenario. Like,
Yeah.
Do it or don't.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
It is good. It's good for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
So eventually we get to the C1S Group.
Oh, yeah. We took a couple detours.
A little detour.
There. Yeah.
How do we get there? Yeah, I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah.
Is it meeting your husband? Is it entrepreneurial itch? Where do you want to start with that?
Yeah. I'm not an entrepreneur. Matt is an entrepreneur. I'm an operator. I like to do things and I like to manage risk. So the way that worked was Matt, I was at TD, project manager. That's how we actually met. I was a project manager for TD on a project that he designed with Meisner and Wurst. He was an engineer there, M&W Zander. And so we met on the job, and then 6 months later, after the job was over, we started dating after the job was over, and then a year later got engaged, a year later got married, and we would invited all those people to our wedding. They were like, Julie, we totally knew. You laughed so hard at his dumb jokes. And I was like, what? I was so cool. No,
no, you're not chill at all. Not chill.
Not. So anyways, I was still at TD. He's an entrepreneur. He wanted to start his own thing. So he started Class 1 Solutions. So back in the day, a clean room, you measured a clean room by the number of particles in a cubic foot of air. Class 1 had one particle at 0.999995 microns in a cubic foot of air. Best clean room you could build. And that's what he wanted to do. Clean rooms all over the world. He was great at it. And so he started the company August 16th, and then September 11th the next year came around. So 9/11 of 2001. We were like looking at crickets. The world shut down, obviously, 9/11. And we just started doing, I was still at TD, thank goodness, had benefits and a paycheck. We didn't have any kids, so this was our first baby. And he was just a consulting engineer. And he was going to design clean rooms all over, but after a while, we were designing anything. We changed our name to AFAB, which stood for anything for a buck. And he would design, engineering for a tanning salon. For a Circle K on the corner, whatever it was. So anyways, got through those years. And then after we had our first kid, I came over and joined him. And people started asking if we would build what we designed. And I had some construction background. So we started a construction company, and that was what C1S Group was. And we kind of kept them separate, right? He had the engineering deal, and I was doing the construction thing. And it was a women-owned business, which was great. For the clients that matters, great. We'll check the box. Otherwise, we're great at what we do. And then after a couple of years, we just combined the two companies. All the intercompany billings just started being stupid. Yeah. And so, and gratefully, high trust, high accountability relationship between the two of us. He was okay taking 49%, and I had 51%. We've since brought on a couple other owners, which is great. And so, anyways, fast forward, all these years, I guess 23 years now, almost 24. been running this baby. We're MEP engineering and construction management. We don't self-perform anything. Our sweet spot forever has been sort of a industrial renovation repurpose. So Frito-Lay, Raytheon, TI, L3, they've got tons of square feet that they're not tearing down. They just turn it over. They change it into a clean room, change it into R&D, change it into office. And mostly, we're making the space do what they need to do to build whatever they build, whether that's potato chips or semiconductor chips. We get the space right with air, water, electricity, all that stuff. We get the shell right for them. And then they can go build whatever they build in there. We do some tool hookup if they need it. We do a ton of other things, facility assessments and all kinds of things. But really just sort of a life cycle solution: design, build, manage, repurpose. And here we are.
It's a fun niche.
Yeah.
You get to be flexible and pivot with y'all's customers or clients, depending on what you call them, and just live in their spaces and kind of be, I'm assuming, an on-call, go-to, trusted, like they fix that one, they'll fix this one, they'll fix the next one. And you're ahead of their life cycles and their product cycles and all that stuff. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. And, when you're in their house, communication is key, right? So everybody's got to know who their client is, know how we manage that. That's why our core values are so important, right? We don't run from bad news. You got to just address it head on and communicate clearly. And, the best marketing we've got is the job we're on right now, doing a good job here and just hopefully getting the next one. So we don't do a ton of, we always are looking for more diversity, but really the work we do right now is the work that, is going to help us get that next job. So we try to build on value in the relationship, really a value-driven relationship, not good old boy at all, but really more about, your problem's our problem. And so our folks are great at solving problems. And you get a new building, it's easy, right? Just starting with grass and you just build up and you know everything in there, but you get a 50-year-old manufacturing facility and it's like, spaghetti warehouse up above those ceiling tiles. And you're like, okay.
Don't know what's up there, but we'll fix it for you.
I know. So
spaghetti warehouse. That took me a minute.
Yeah.
That's a cabling joke.
There you go.
There was a spaghetti warehouse upstairs?
Yeah, it's weird. Sorry. You're on the other side of the industry. Yeah.
It took me a second. I was like, oh, I didn't even know they had spaghetti warehouses anymore.
That's a lot of noodles.
That's a lot of noodles. And then it took there was a blip in my mind where I could see that tile
I
pull
saw
back.
that light.
Yeah. I was like,
saw it.
Oh.
Did you literally call your company AFAB, or was that just what you called it internally?
Just joking.
Got it.
We were like,
because either land.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been, right? For sure.
AFAB, what does it stand for? None of your business.
Yeah.
It's fabrication. It's a play on the idea of fab.
Great AFAB.
Yeah, we're doing stuff to help you fabricate. It's a fab.
Right.
AFAB. It's
anything for a buck. I love that. That is a startup truth.
Oh, that's some. You know it. You're in it.
Yeah, in the throes of it.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's good. 7 months in, relationship and reputation. At the end of the day, the relationships get the door cracked open, and then reputation's what you do after that. And this market's all about that. And people have been really good to us, giving us great opportunities. And it's not just out of service or a favor. They're like, we need you. We remember how you performed for us. We need you. And so that feels good to know that where we're sitting, people need us in. It's not just like I'm selling you on something. It's a two-way street of benefit and value.
Yeah.
So it's great to see.
They have choices and they're choosing you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty great.
I love my team. They're awesome.
Well done.
Just like y'all do. Like I don't know if it's your LinkedIn banner or your website banner where everybody doing a cannonball or something.
It's so fun. After our first golf tournament, of course, we didn't plan very well. It was like in August in Texas. It was so hot. I don't know why anybody came out. It was so hot.
Well, it's cheaper to do it then. It's
that
the
is
first one in August always because it's cheaper.
August 7th. That makes perfect sense then. Why we nailed that date. And it was so hot. And some young guy that worked with us, Jamie Wood, said, "Dude, we should do a pool jump after this." And I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And we all, we just had a fun day. It'd been a big success. Everyone had a great time. And we all the pool was closed. Like the club's closed on Mondays. We were at Brookhaven. Club's closed. And, bartenders have all left. All the guests have left pretty much. And we just go down to the deep end of the pool and someone had a camera and we just jumped in.
Heck yeah.
And everybody did it. Like everybody jumped. And then the bartenders, they did. This Monday, they left and they just left a fully stocked bar. So then we
Uh-oh.
just
The party
stayed.
rages on.
We just stayed in the pool, just
Yeah.
in our clothes, soaking wet, having a great time, feeling really great about the accomplishment. It was awesome.
I love that.
That was good fun. It was good fun.
It's a little token. You get that picture out of it, but that person's comfort level with even suggesting that just speaks to your culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's we work too hard to not have some fun.
Yeah.
I mean, mercy.
Yeah, and stress and the pressure and all of it, and I get that. Right?
Yeah.
Like at some point, this has to be worth it for more than the paycheck every. Like it has to be worth it for more than that, and that's what, from my perspective, that's what builds, holds, maintains, and keeps. I should say, like what? You thought I was going to say shat?
No, I'm way off in ADD land in my head. You want me to actually describe what's happening?
Yeah, just
I will.
Just for the listeners, you can't pick up what happened, but like as I was talking, Kevin turned away from the mic and kind of chuckled. I don't know if it picked up or not, and I got distracted. So lay it on me, man. We're changing the name. What are we changing the name of the podcast to?
Brad
in the ditch and something.
So we got this character Brad that's carried throughout our podcast, and Brad always does dumb stuff.
Oh, good.
Like rides a donkey instead of a horse. There's a bunch of different things, but in the Brad saga, I thought of Brad doing the cannonball to deep end. They're like, Brad doesn't know how to swim. He just jumped in. He just sank like a sack of rocks.
He's so committed.
Somebody go get Brad from the bottom of the pool.
Everybody's welcome, right? Welcome. So everybody's standing around, and then you just hear Brad out of the corner like, cannonball! Everybody jumps over. He's just like a sack of potatoes to the bottom. And I was
Teamwork.
like,
go get Brad.
So in my mind, everybody just like kind of like, well, and they just went back to drinking. Like he just drowned. Like freaking Brad, man.
Brad, classic Brad.
Classic Brad. He's so stupid.
So instead of me listening as a pro, that's where my head went to a point of chuckling out loud. I played that whole scene out in my head.
I loved it.
I think it was worth it. I'm glad we stopped down for it.
That was good.
Freaking Brad.
Man, we skipped over a bunch of C1S stuff in here. I don't want to like yada over. We kind of like pinged around on some stuff though. Anything we met, and I don't want to short circuit any of this, but does anything like you think, oh, we missed that? We definitely have to talk about that. Kevin raised his hands. Kevin,
working with a spouse is a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
that I couldn't see myself doing.
Yeah,
like what are the blessings and the challenges of that?
Yeah, so well,
careful.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
No, it has been great. So we had pretty decent separation of duties. I was more operational and he was more like client facing, project facing. I was more HR, payroll, people, benefits, job cost, finance, all that stuff. Right. So I could do this and he could do that. And we were separate. We sort of butted heads at marketing, that's where we had to get together. But the kicker is when it's good, it's good. And that's fine. But when it's bad, it's exponential because you don't get to go home and talk to someone. No, and we're different people. Like I'm an operator and he's an entrepreneur.
Right.
So his solution to the problem is real different from mine. And can be real strong-willed. And so now we're talking about stuff and it's getting, we're not just disagreeing. Well, we're disagreeing, but we're also disagreeing at home, we're disagreeing at work. And because we had a disagreement at work, I'm really not that thrilled to see you.
Yeah.
And, when work is overwhelming and you got to work long hours and you both run out of gas, you don't have anything to give each other. You really don't want to because, again, we're different. And that's what happened in 2018, man. He was out of gas. I was out of gas. We had nowhere to turn. That was a difficult, painful year. Like 2017, one of our best clients froze all spending. We were in the process of maybe looking at an acquisition. Someone was wanting to buy us. We got real distracted. And pretty soon you look up and early, and then, we were like, well, we'll just stop taking a paycheck, Matt and I. That gets a real stressor after a minute.
Uh-huh.
And then, then you get to where you don't have work for people. They know it. You know it. You got to let a couple people go. I felt so committed that I insisted on going there and having those conversations with them, broke my heart. And then once that happens, then there's some attrition, right? People are like, this place doesn't feel safe.
Yeah, I'm jumping off.
Yeah, fun as they may be, this doesn't feel safe. And so then you lose more. You lose more than you need. You cut a little too deep. And you can't cut your way out of some of those things. You got to sell your way out. And we had neglected our pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took time to build back up. We had great clients. They liked us. They loved what we do. They loved how we served. We didn't, push some opportunities that we could have. And some things just sort of conspired against us timing wise. But thankfully the acquisition didn't happen because we are thrilled with where we are now and our team. But it was difficult. And that was a really hard year for us and a hard year for me. And you can't go through those things without some amount of collateral damage to the relationship. Like you talk to each other differently as coworkers than you do as husband and wife. And it's easy to say, hey, it's just business and start getting real straight and direct. Maybe not hitting below the belt, but look, we got to do a thing. I don't have time for a bunch of soft talk. Let's go.
Yeah.
And we weren't always aligned on what the path forward was. And so then, well, now, you sort of cross that line of we don't talk that way. Well, we do now. And then cross another line of we don't talk that way. Well, it looks like we do now. And then, there's just some erosion that happens and you have to we didn't do it. We didn't have good boundaries about, we don't talk about work at home. We don't do X, Y, and Z. If it comes to this, we walk away. We didn't have those boundaries. We were it was like the frog in boiling water, right? It just, the temperature got turned up on us and all of a sudden it was like, holy cow. And so it was hard. And so I had to really be, sit down and think about how I'd do it differently, but I'd certainly put some boundaries around it. You don't get to, go home and bring that stuff home with you. But when it's your livelihood, you might lose it. You might lose your house. You might have to liquidate the 401k and the college fund. You're like, this hurts more than I want it to hurt. I don't want this bad. And, me, I'm the risk. I don't gamble.
Yeah.
And he was like, we can do it. We just need 2 more sales. And I was like, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. Just bail. I can go get a job. I'll go back to TD. I mean, there were just moments that were beyond painful. And so you just, I don't have great words of wisdom how you get through it because we didn't do it great. And we would do it better if it had to happen again. I hope it never does.
Well, you said boundaries. Are you doing them? Do you have those now?
Yeah. We're much better about it now.
Yeah.
And we've got more people in leadership team to share the load.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was just the 2 of us.
Yeah.
And it was so, you just feel the weight of the world. And really what we felt was we got 34 people that are, trying to send their kids to school and to summer camp and to make their car payment and to go on a vacation that they need. They counted on us. We told them, you have got a long job here and we want you to stay here forever. We're a family, and all of a sudden we're having to, send off some family.
Mm-hmm.
It was only 4 people, but it just was a tipping point. It was
One
horrible.
could feel like a million.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, we did get through it. And what I loved was when we had to, at the end of that day, after we had those 4 conversations, we got in a room and we told people what had happened. And, my dad, one of my mentors, had coached me on, hey, you just got to shoot straight with them and tell them that you're still in it and there's a path forward. We wouldn't do it to, death by 1,000 cuts. We're trying to turn this thing around. And so we did have a tough talk and tell everybody where we were and what was going to happen next. And this wonderful person who's now an owner, Shelley White, said, how can we help?
Yes.
I was like, tears came to my eyes. I was like, bless you, Angel, for just saying those words as I'm sitting here feeling like the biggest failure ever, that you just jumped in the ditch with me. You just jumped in a foxhole and said, I'm with you. And man.
Not to overly emotionalize that feeling, but when you said it, like all your people are going to make fun of me, Kev, but I got chill bumps and actually welled up in my eyes.
Yeah.
Because that moment of feeling like, oh my God, and I got to say all this. And then that person raised their hand and say, I heard you. I'm in.
Yeah.
That's crazy and awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy and awesome.
Yeah. And so that's, that's the stuff that we try to remember and hold on to. And that's what we want this company to be about, right? It's a lot of what you do, Kevin, is, work is a vehicle.
Yeah.
And there's no like work-life balance. Like I don't forget about work when I go home, and I don't forget about my kids when I'm at the office.
That's right.
It's just life. And work is an important part of life, and it can be a great part of life. It should add juice. It should not just pay your bills. It should give you energy. It should give you purpose. It should give you friendship. It should give you community. It should give you support. It shouldn't just empty you so that you can take a 2-week vacation and be like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, we're missing the mark if that's what our people are feeling.
Yeah. And so, that moment really crystallized for me. And since then, it just comes up all the time in decisions like COVID. We're going to force everybody to get a vaccine? Nope. Nope. I mean, L3, you can't come on site without one. Okay, what other jobs do we have?
Yeah,
Where
right.
can she go and who can go there? Just all the things that you think about when you think about these people that are given their professional capital to C1S. This is their livelihood.
Mhm.
This is where they're spending their time. What do we owe them? Like what's our job in making sure we're good for that? And so we really, we work hard at that. And making sure and it's not ping pong tables and, nap rooms. It's not those perks. It's the real, we've got a remote work policy. We've got, a robust vacation policy. We want you to take it. No, you don't get to bank it. And no, we won't. You do get to bank it. We won't give it to you as cash.
Yeah.
Take it.
Mhm.
These are your days. You don't know how many you got. Take them. So we just try to be intentional and, we of course want to grow and get bigger, but we never want to lose that. We're not wanting to get big for just big's sake. I don't need a number. We just want to keep doing what we do really, really well, and people enjoy what they do. And every day is not fun. There's a lot of days that suck, but there's more days that are good.
Yeah.
And more days where people don't wake up dreading work.
Yes.
So that's for us. I mean, that's what makes it fun for me. And that psychology comes back around. I think I just have a heart for people. I don't have a heart for acquisition or a heart for, just egregious expansion for expansion's sake. I just, I really just enjoy working with people, doing a cool thing, serving people well inside and outside the company. And I think that's a sustainable model. I hope so.
Oh yeah. I'm going to pull us back for just a second. There's a moment in there where you can hear what Damian Lee was saying. Figure that one out. Where he said, like, everybody wants to be a cowboy until it's time to do cowboy stuff. Like, you feel that earlier in the story. It's like, man, this is tough. And this, like, everybody wants to, like, oh, I should be the owner. Yeah, but you think about these decisions. Oh, I should be in charge. Yeah, but you have to make that decision. You have to figure out this. You have to manage that. You're responsible for all those people. And I say it kind of with a harsh tone, but just like as a measure of emphasis, not anger, is like, that's a real, like, it never leaves.
Mhm.
There's 30 plus people that are you're responsible because they are trying to send their kids to summer camp, as you said. That
Yeah.
doesn't leave. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
that's anyway.
Yeah.
Just I could feel that idea of like, no, it's awesome because there's a calling to do it. And the work that is being done is providing for these but not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No.
Anyway.
But the rewards, I'll say the rewards are great.
Yeah.
We just it's so important when you're picking people, right? You don't and gosh, it's so hard to find good people. But the rewards, I mean, these relationships are huge, that we've, grown the company and we're at a good spot now. People are enjoying what they do and our clients like the way we do it. And there's a lot more to do. So I think it's been a lot of fun. I can't imagine where else I would have been for 23 years that I would have learned as much, right? I mean, it's been an MBA in and of itself.
Yeah.
And met such great people. Like here I sit with you two, sit with you guys in the Texo board. I mean, I was like, this is the big kids room. Why am I here? This is
Because
silly.
you're a beast. That's why.
And so, and to meet such great people and, anyways, it's just given me so much. I'm really grateful.
Let me ask you this, based on that, what you've been saying, and what you wrote in the intro that we didn't really talk about, that you're an encourager. How do you do when you're encouraged? Like when somebody pays you a compliment or tells you how good you are.
Good question.
Do you receive it or do you block it?
Well, I try not. It used to be like, no, but stop it. Because then I realized that makes people feel like they got to keep trying to prove me. And then they have to keep doing it.
Oh.
So then I'm like, I don't know. I'm not great at compliments. No, I guess I'm not good at it.
You're just like dishing them out.
Yeah.
You're good at them.
I'm good at cheering. My voice carries.
Yeah. Well, and the way you do it, like, because I can't accept compliments. And before you got here, she went on about something, and they're like, I have to receive that. The way you presented it,
you.
I did.
You did say thank you. And
Very
I noticed
reluctantly.
it was very
I
intentional.
think I slapped the table.
You did. Thank you. And
that was me saying,
stop. Enough.
Yeah.
I'm trying hard to not rebuke this compliment.
But that's work. That's progress. And I mean, I can say, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, it's all good.
There's a lot in there. We will not
Sorry.
unpack that.
I can't-
We're good.
I can't unpack it myself. It's just happening between my ears. And I'm like,
There's a couple of emergency brakes got pulled right there. I don't know what they were, but we will
lever.
Yeah.
It's
Tokyo drifting. Yeah. We're off the rails again.
well,
All right. Well, normally we're gonna like give you a shout out for your family and stuff. We got it along the way here, though.
yeah.
At least there's one of your sons is a pitcher. Hold on, Kev, raise his hands again.
Well, because if you're going to two-step, there's one thing we haven't hit: bucket list stuff.
Yeah.
She wrote a list.
Yeah.
There's an actual list there.
Yeah,
Was there? You must have been on the website.
Machu Picchu, but
No,
then
yeah.
you added some.
You
Yeah.
wrote it right here.
Oh, let me get there.
Here, I'll tell you what you wrote.
Yeah.
Since I spent so much time
Did
studying.
Brad fill this out for you?
Right. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I've kind of been into this meditation thing, right? So you can't just it's not like taking an Advil, right? You kind of do it and you kind of do more of it and more of it, more of it. And I've sort of been toying with the idea of a meditation retreat.
Yeah.
These things are like, have you heard it?
Mhm.
Have you done one?
No.
I know someone who does it. Mike Bassett does them. Former podcast guest. He goes on it's like a week and they don't talk to anybody.
Silent.
Silence.
Walking meditation and sitting meditation. And I was like, oh, but maybe there's some real gold to find there. And I mean, as much as some days I'm like, just everybody, just be quiet. I don't think 7 days is the elixir for that. Like, that's not what you get. I think you could go crazy in your own mind with that kind of quiet to where you finally break through some stuff. So that's sort of tempting to me. But yeah, Machu Picchu. I did a report in college and I had to say it. It was 5 minutes. I had to memorize it in Spanish. That was a lot of talk about piedras, and those are stones.
No.
Machu Picchu is built on stones on a mountain. But anyways, point being, it was long and hard, but it kind of made me fall in love with this like mysterious city that they discovered in the 70s or 80s,
Yeah.
Covered with vines, and people lived there, like a whole civilization. And it'd be cool. It's a great hike. People do it. It's not like it's not climbing Kilimanjaro or Everest or something. I mean, old people do this, older than me, climb this. And so it's fine, but that would be cool. I'd love to speak more Spanish.
I'm in the boat with you on that. Maybe we could be like your running accountability partner, fluent Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm statement Spanish. It doesn't cut the mustard.
Yeah.
Because then you get a reply and you're like, no comprende.
Yep. Slow down. Lentamente, please.
Yeah.
Por favor, rather.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to speak more Spanish. Yeah, my husband and I, we do a lot of yoga. We go on yoga retreats. That's kind of great. So more of that.
That sounds like a tippy toe into a meditation.
It
actually.
is.
It's like a hybrid.
Kind of is, but I'll say you meditate. I mean, you do yoga twice a day, and the rest of the day you could just, be boozing by the pool. So it's not
Oh, you're with your sister on that trip that
You
your
get-
grandma's money.
Yeah.
You're doing
kind
that.
of, yeah, it's a little bit like that.
Okay.
So, you do yoga, but then you kind of undo yoga for about 4 hours, and then you go back and do more yoga. But it's great.
You unyoga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Today's yoga session smells like alcohol. It's weird.
Yeah, the afternoon session's real easy. It's a lot of shavasana, which is corpse pose. We're just on our mats like, oh, God, this day is so great.
I saw a guy at the gym this morning. I thought he was sleeping. I almost wanted to take a picture because I was like, why am I not doing that workout? He was in a racquetball court just laying like he was in a coffin on a mat, not moving.
Yeah.
Like, should somebody check in on this guy?
Right.
Maybe he was doing corpse pose.
Shavasana. Yes, it's a
Shavasana.
thing.
He was Shavasana like a madman.
He was. He took.
Maybe he was meditating while Shavasana.
Yes, you can do that. Yes.
See?
Learn
Yeah.
something new every day. You're welcome.
We're all so smart right now.
This guy's got the ultimate gym hack.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, buddy, you could have done that at home in your bed.
You didn't
Before
have
you
to
Got a
woke up.
line of racquetballers out here pounding on the door while you're
to get in.
Shavasana.
It's a verb. Now it's a verb.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how do we end that thing?
We digress.
Again.
A
Okay.
lot.
All right. Let's do this. You know how we end this.
Oh no. Rapid fire questions?
No.
Callers. We got some callers on the line. We're going to take. How
Right.
great would that be? Yeah, first time caller. Long time listener.
Nuclear. Just prank calls. It would be Fisher. There's our quota.
There's your. We already hit the Woodhouse swag.
Oh,
We
that's
full,
right.
full circle Woodhouse. No, one big thing at the end. Like, what's your, if you had to, one piece of advice you dole out, one thing you've learned over your years, one thing you've figured out through your meditation retreats. It's, I don't know, whatever. I'm just trying to interlude so you can
Yeah,
think.
appreciate it.
What's the one big thing? What's the one big takeaway for listeners here?
Oh gosh. I think I would say don't look to the world. This is a little Brene Brown. Look to the world for, validation that you're okay, because the world will tell you you're not. So somehow you got to build that knowledge within you. And it's not overconfidence, and it's not arrogance, and it's not about being bulletproof, but to recognize your own worth, no matter what role you're in, what seat, what you do. Your own worth is sort of unquestionable, and to don't feel like you gotta earn it through some sort of service, some sort of activity, some sort of accomplishment. I think I spent a fair amount of time thinking, well, I'll feel better about myself when X.
Right.
I'll be a real leader when Y. I really thought, if I get on the 1720 podcast, then I've arrived. So thanks, guys.
Oh, that whole bar conversation from earlier. Let's rate.
Yeah, right. So, but really, just to not keep waiting for something external to tell you you're okay. Not that the world will for one make sure that you never feel it almost, but that man, life's too short and there's too much goodness that you miss in that vein of striving.
Yeah. Yeah, the world does have a real way of kicking you, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out how to parlay it and keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have talked for 6 hours. In fact, I feel like we did for an hour before we started, and then a little bit here. But this is awesome. Thanks for sharing your stories and chatting with us, and little nuggets along the way. And I wrote down 3 things along the way. I don't write down much stuff. Normally, I'm just like sticking it in my brains, but I wrote down some great notes today. So
Y'all are awesome.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
This is great. I was telling Kevin, I think chips are like the vehicle for queso.
Yeah,
Queso's
for
the good stuff. Chips are just how you eat it.
Agree.
I think you guys are the queso here.
Oh,
This
no.
vehicle
That's-
is really pretty terrific for, well, one, I just feel great. I mean, I'm on cloud 9 for just getting to spend a couple hours talking with you guys and share. Everybody likes to share their story.
Mhm.
What a great way to start my Thursday. But that y'all sort of have really hit a vein and you found a way and people are resonating with what you're doing. And this is unpaid work.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm grateful to you guys for stepping out and doing it. Episode 177, is that where we are?
I think we might be 178 because
You re-rolled one.
I re-rolled one, so this
Yeah.
will be 178. Yeah.
178. It's fabulous. Well done. Well done.
Encourager.
Encourager.
Well done.
I was going to try to reverse you that and be like, no, we're the chips and you're the, but I'm just going to say thanks.
There.
Thanks for saying that.
Hey, and thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is great.